Welcome to Under Construction podcast, where it's all pure site talk. Yes, we like to tackle the topics that affect tradespeople both on and off site, while having a bit of crack along the way. And today we're diving into what makes Irish sport so unique. Forget about the systems, forget about fitness levels, it's all about the rivalries. And helping us to chat about those are two of our greatest. We are delighted to be joined by Mayo dual star Keith Higgins and 8-time All-Ireland winner Philly McMahon. This is a great chat, you're going to love it. It gets the rivalry juices up and going. So grab a cuppa, turn up the volume and let's get it done. Billy, Keith, thanks so much for joining us on Under Construction. We're going to have a broader conversation about rivalries, and I don't think there's anyone better in the country to chat us through it. But just to maybe stir it a little bit, if you were up for it, we do a grip strength test. And I know you'd be into it because you're a little bit competitive. We have a leaderboard at the moment, which is quite evident, right? And it's got the sports stars at the top. So there's Donncha O'Callaghan from Shells leading us out, and Mark Johnson is second. But if you look at the bottom, it's all the comedians. So you know what I mean?
If you,
yeah, exactly. You don't want to be.
Willie White's up the top three.
He's a scaffolder.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. You honestly, hand's like a bear, man. He'd rip off your hand. Yeah.
That's where the High Rocks is going to come in.
There you go. There you go. I feel bad now actually making it a competition straight away. But if you're up for it, lads.
I've actually walked with three of those on the wall. So
no way.
I've walked with John O'Sullivan with balls. Willie White used to be in my gym. Eric Lawler is in my gym now. So I have to beat those.
Yeah, you have the 39 you have to stay away from. So there's no rules. Grip strength, whatever way you want to, left, right arm, whatever gets you the best score, go for it.
Okay,
I'm not.
Okay. No pressure. Do you just get one shot?
Oh no, Philly, you get 8.
You have to have warm up, do you?
Edit this out.
Exactly, one for every All Ireland. Go on, Philly, give it some.
55.6.
55.6.
Do I go for one?
Yes, you have to clear it there, Keith. What was it, 55?
0.6. That's a warm-up now,
45.
Yeah,
that's a warm-up.
We'll do it again at the end to see how we go. I love the way the whole of Mayo said, this is it.
This is the hurler.
Yeah.
The hurler grip.
Oh yeah, don't be going with that one. No.
Brilliant. Go on, Keith, give it some boy.
48.1, I'll take
that.
Take it. Bit better.
Yeah.
Bit better.
48.1.
Brilliant.
Well, we'll get another shot, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
As it goes on, we might just grab it every now and again.
Up now after a while, yeah.
Thanks a million for joining us. Honestly, looking forward to this. We're going to have a broad conversation about rivalries, but is there one in your head, lads, that stands out? Like, even your sport aside, is there a rivalry that you kind of look in at that you kind of go, yeah, that is the essence of, you know, something different? It could be Milan or wherever it is, but ones that you see that kind of go, wow, you can see that that's just a little bit beyond sport. It means a bit more.
In any sport, is it?
In any sport, yeah. Just some.
The one I always kind of wanted to get to was like Celtic Rangers game.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I suppose kind of growing up, they were just always massive games. They seemed like they were massive games. Now, it was probably Sky building them up a bit as well, but there was always that kind of nearly hatred, I suppose, in them games, you know. So that was one you'd love to get to, but
yeah, that kind of crosses so much, doesn't it? There's like political sides of it. There's, you know what I mean? There's
it goes outside sports.
Yeah, religious sides of it. It nearly has it all, and then you bring it down to the sport itself.
Yeah.
What about for you, Philly?
The Old Firm for me is a big one. My dad's from West Belfast, big Celtic fan, so I'm a Celtic fan and an Everton fan. So the Merseyside derby, albeit Everton haven't been great over the years, and Liverpool have been a team that's gaining a couple of trophies.
I love that you can't even give it to them. Like, they won the league, man. Can you not just say well done?
You
know what I mean? That actually sums it up there.
The only positive thing that came out, that was your man that sold the blue flares. The blue flares. I thought it was unreal.
How witty.
But every sport, like, there's so many that pop into your head when you ask that question. Like in combat sports, you have so many.
Yeah.
Even when you look at Ben and Eubank, the fight there, that was unreal, particularly because that two fathers fought each other. But Foreman, Ali, Barca, Real Madrid, you know, it's just in sport, it's just...
I think the one thing about professional sports is that, like, you look at the soccer players, think they're they're paid professionals, are there for the money. But then when you get them big rivalries, there's nearly something more to it. Like, it looks like they actually care about it, you know. So it brings out something different in them.
I suppose with those professional ones, you kind of want them to buy in, don't you? Like that, if you don't see them giving it their all, you're there like this. You just a hired gun, you know.
Yeah. When you even look at soccer in Ireland, like you look at the Rovers Bowls games, like you have to go and experience one of them. They're incredible derbies, like, and then the Dublin clubs actually playing each other, but there's still a little bit of rivalry from the Dublin clubs, Dublin derbies, like. But Rovers and Bowls is a crazy game, like the fans. I remember working with Bowls. I worked at Rovers and Bowls, but I remember working for Bowls and sitting in the Connacht stand in Dalymount. Nobody's allowed in it. It's gone now, but I was sitting there and there was a steward. I don't know why the steward was there, to be honest, but there was a couple of Rovers players sitting on the bench, sitting on the seats actually. They were actually not on the bench. A couple of lads maybe that were injured. And there was a foul and the steward shouted that it was just an instinct thing. He just shouted, he dived, and the Rovers player turned around, what are you on about? And it nearly kicked off. The steward, and I had to say to one of the lads that was with me, will you tell him to relax, because he's meant to be like a steward today. Like, but when we went over to Rovers in the following, so that got out that there was stewards attacking Rovers players. No such thing. It was a bit of an argy-bargy. Went over to Tala, and we were sitting in the stand, the benches in the stand in Tala, and there must have been about 10, 12 lads just standing, not even watching the game, abusing the lads.
Wow.
Absolutely, with ridiculous things. There was a lad standing there with his son, young lad, and I won't even say what he said, and I was just looking at him going, and he actually were talking about Mayo to me.
Wow.
Like, and I was like, you're a dub, like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah, Mayo will get you. And I'm what? You're a dub, like.
That really got you.
It does get to the point where it spills over, and we might kind of chat about that. But you're right there. The fans are important, aren't they? Like you're saying, those little moments there of I know my club in Cork, but there was a club we used to go to, and I'd say I wasn't even born when Con went to play them one time, and they weren't given a stew after the match. Like, the lads didn't feed them. And there's another rumour around the club that the club secretary said, we're trying to get the train home, so we're actually grand with soup and sandwiches. But it became this drive around the club. They never fed the lads back in, you know what I mean? It could be in the 1800s, you know what I mean? They're there, like, but it still drives the demand and drives that.
Parochial rivalries as well are probably make it even more special. Like I said, the supporters, and it's just like, maybe the fear illusion to the crowd down the road, or your next door neighbours or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Mayo fans are bonkers. Mayo fans are like the only other way I can describe Mayo fans, and I appreciate that, by the way. It's,
of course,
as much as they abuse me, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But like, I despise Liverpool fans because I'm not all. Do you know the ones that just talk about winning all the time? Liverpool deserve to win. It's probably you. You Liverpool fan.
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Probably one of them. But Mayo fans, my God, do they back that team? To the hilt. Like if Mayo were the worst Mayo team this year, if they had the worst Mayo team in the last 20 years, it doesn't matter.
It'll still be there.
They will back them to the hilt. You know,
that's why I always said about them. They're crazy, but in the best possible way. Like, you know, they'd go everywhere. Like,
but Keith, that's quite remarkable, because that's kind of rare, isn't it? Because sometimes with success or with failure, people can pull away. You know what I mean? But they've never disassociated any bit. Like, they've taken the hurt as well.
Mayo went for so long without even winning Connacht titles. Like, you know, probably 70s, 80s. Even part of the 90s nearly, like, you know, it's only from mid-90s onwards then we kind of started winning Connacht regularly enough. So they probably went through long spells where there was nothing happening.
I think the biggest thing with like a tribe type thing, like the fans of Mayo, let's say, right? Like, I come from a community that has been politically neglected for generations, right? And that makes Ballymun a really tight-knit community. That's what you ask people about Ballymun. That's the one strength they'll say, right? And you'll have huge amount of activism over the years because of that. But when you look at a fan base, when they've had so much hurt, I think that's what creates that connection.
I agree.
And that them versus us type thing. And that's why Mayo would be so strong in terms of a fan base. Like, how many times a year do you see a celebrity getting a Mayo jersey? And you're just like, Jesus Christ. Like, you know, you see another event, I don't know, Wimbledon or something go, and you see a Mayo jersey in the background.
Of course, yeah.
It's all Mayo or
just all
Kerry
part of it,
jersey,
isn't it?
It always is in those moments.
Yeah.
There's something about Irish culture that identifies with that a little bit. Like Mayo became Ireland's team, didn't they? Like everyone, bar outside the Dublins, but when you were going against them, you know, you'd see Mayo flags in Cork.
Probably that whole thing, you know, the fact that there was no All-Irelands there for so long, is that like there was that whole journey, and the Mayo fans were just backing it and hoping someday they'd get over the line, you know. But it was just, everyone seemed to hop on the bandwagon. And then for a while, I've even friends of mine who were Roscommon guys, and even they were coming to Mayo games, like, you know. So, and you talk about rivalry, there's a big rivalry in Mayo and Roscommon. So I think it's just when they're on that journey and they're looking to win something that hasn't been won so long, it kind of, that, like Philly said, that hurt kind of drags people along with it. You know?
True, I agree. It is important in sport to have them though, isn't it? And to kind of even nearly grow new ones that can just come out of a dodgy stew, or, you know what I mean? Like, genuinely, like we had it with Munster out of nowhere. This big rivalry started with Glasgow. You know, that you wouldn't think. And like you mentioned it there, we'd all be kind of Celtic supporters. You think there's someone that, but in actually being quite similar, there was a conflict in it. You know what I mean? It was kind of like holding up a mirror. It was like, they're like us and we don't like it.
Well, it makes sport more interesting when you have them rivalries, like particularly the local ones. Like, cause you just don't want to lose to your neighbour, like, you know. And it's just like when I'm living now, like, you go 2 miles out the road, you're into Roscommon. You go 10 miles the other way, you're into Galway, like. So there's just that fear nearly of losing to Galway or Roscommon every time you play them. Yeah, just like you can't deal with the neighbours coming in to town and chatting with them and having that one up on you for another year, like. You know, so
I think that's interesting. We would have had that at club, like, you know. So because Ballymun is kind of like two communities, it's Glasnevin and Ballymun. Our neighbour and rival is Nafina, who branched out from Ballymun at a stage, and Paddy Christie was my manager from a very young age, but his cousin played for Nafina, Joey Boland, like, you know, and a lot of these lads were going to school together, the Glasnevin lads, and that's what was said. You don't want to go to school and not have the bragging rights anymore, like, you know, of winning that game. So the rivalry we had for years with Nafina was all down to the bragging rights, you know?
And that's what it nearly is. It is bragging, but if you bring it down even to your house, you compete with your brothers and your sisters, don't you? Like, rivalries are important. Even
we see it there in Mayo, like at Castlebar and Brafey, like the two Riley brothers, like one was playing with Castlebar and one was playing with Brafey, and they used to meet in county finals, like. Just was whatever happened at underage, like, and play with different teams, and you know, you have two brothers playing with two different teams, so it's crazy how these things can work out. Like,
was there an onus on them to nearly show how much it meant? Like we mentioned, the professional players that buy in, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, and probably was, I suppose, but there's probably a pressure on them. Everyone's looking at them, wondering how they're going to react as well. Like, so I don't know, is that an Irish thing really? How you end up with two different players on two different teams, and they should be in the same parish? I don't know.
Yeah. Do you know what I found interesting with the Dublin team I was on? Is that, of course, we had rivalry, but particularly with Mayo, with Kerry, with Tyrone, a couple of those clubs, right, at counties. We were very fortunate to get to a point where we were educated on being rootless.
Yeah.
Right? It's a kind of a word thrown around. It's a value that's not really looked into enough. That when you get to a point, there's course within you, there's rivalry.
Yeah.
But if you can get to a point, like we had a lot of questions thrown at us over the years of like, how do you go for the Leinster games?
Yeah.
How do you go for teams that are not probably at the top level of the game and are not winning? It didn't matter to us. No matter who we played, of course, I'm not dismissing the rivalry between Mayo, Kerry and all.
Yeah.
But we would have got to a stage at a certain point in the 10, 14 years I was there, that we were actually looking at every team the same.
Yeah.
Like, you're our enemy. No matter who we are, if you're Wicklow, Longford, Mayo or Kerry, we're going for you.
It's amazing you say it, Philly, because I know from some of the lads, the New Zealanders that we would have had in our environment, and the mindset they have is to show you the ultimate respect, to keep going, to hammer them. Sometimes when you get ahead in a kind of match, you can pull up the handbrake. But that Kiwi mindset was then you're showing them disrespect.
Yeah, be ruthless. And
actually show them the ultimate respect.
I think some of that nearly comes down even just to winning though. Like, when you're top of the pile, you want to stay there, and you know you have to be at your best to stay there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's always someone looking to knock you off. You nearly get more satisfaction not letting them win, if you know what I mean. So like I would have even seen it at a club level, like, it's completely different, but at hurling, like, and that's lower standard, like, but for a while we would have been kind of winning 3 or 4 county titles in a row, and you just wanted to, you made yourself get better to keep them down, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, because they're trying to get up to your level.
Yeah. So that kind of winning kind of drives that on as well. Like, when you're chasing, it's a different nearly mindset. Like,
but it's a never give a sucker a break, isn't it? Because you know,
keep them down.
It's so hard to win. Let's say from your point of view, out in All Ireland, but then it's so hard to maintain that level to actually retain it. Like, and again, if you look at Armagh All Ireland champions, like, it's going to be so difficult for them to retain it, because first of all, there's a target on their back. But when you've got over the line, you're kind of like, you might get complacent, you might cut corners, but that's...
Well, you're the one to ask about that. Like, your team is the most decorated in GAA history, 8 All Ireland. It's quite phenomenal. How do you keep that going? How do you keep that knowing that you're the one and everyone's sharpening the blade for you?
The competition in the group was key. The management team keeping our standards so high. The culture was very strong, and having teams to keep us paranoid. Like Mayo and Kerry, they kept us paranoid. Like, even now, to win an All Ireland, I think you just win 9 games. You've won an All Ireland, right? So, but the problem with it is that you don't know how well you're preparing until you play that game.
Yeah.
So if we were playing Mayo in 2 weeks' time, we could prepare, but on the basis of thinking that we were doing the right things. And then we play Mayo, and if we won or lost, we'd know we didn't prepare right.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a gamble. Like, but the key thing for us was to be so paranoid of what's coming. Nearly that fear of, of being beaten drove us on so much. Like,
I think that's a big thing, is nearly the fear of losing. People say it's a bad thing, but I think sometimes if you have that fear of losing, it does drive you on.
I 100% agree.
You hear people talk about, the fear of losing will kind of hold you back. I think it's the opposite. I think it has to drive you on.
Yeah, and we would have flipped from that to a team that, when we understood our process and what worked for us, that we kept looking for separation from that.
Yeah.
We kept looking for going higher. So that...
Well, that's an amazing way to do it, because it is a powerful drive, that fear of losing, but you can't use it forever, so you can't.
No, because it can create fear.
Yeah, it does.
And it stops you from playing there.
Yeah.
But for us, we would have probably transitioned from a fear of losing to a team that was all about performance. And then the performance, the outcome obviously is you win if you perform at the highest levels of your standards. If you lose, great, you just change your standards. You have to up them a little bit more,
Yeah.
But for us, there would have been games where we played, let's say, Mayo, and we would have won them, and we became so obsessive around performance that we would have had space to try get after. Like, we never really won an All Ireland and had all the boxes ticked.
There was always a work on.
There was always space where you'd go, and that's because of probably Kerry or Mayo exposing us.
Yeah,
But there was always a drive to win an All Ireland, let's say, and to win it while kind of nearly a level of perfection. Like,
wow,
we were like, right, this KPI we met, this KPI we met. So
key for you, prepare, knowing that they're looking at those, they're the matrix, and even what Philly was saying about not knowing till you get there. But those contests, you know what I mean? How did you prepare for the Dubs, knowing that they were empty and everything?
Yeah, I suppose for us it was just kind of getting ourselves in the mindset that we were good enough to win it. Like, like we couldn't be going out there kind of fear in Dublin, kind of going, we have to stop this or we have to stop that. For us, it was just, we're definitely good enough to do it. We just have to go and do it. And these are the areas that we need to hit to go and do it. Like, so for us, it was always about kind of getting that confidence up rather than kind of saying how we stopped Dublin more than anything else. Like, I remember in 2012, we kind of put a big emphasis even in kind of some of the league games and kind of targeting yourselves and kind of targeting like sort of Kerry. So that if we knew we can beat them in the league, it's it's chalk and cheese really for the championship, but you still had that victory over them. Yeah. So I know we played Dublin in Castlebar in league in 2012. You playing the game that was called off because of the fog.
I was, yeah.
So like they were beating us well.
I got a black card actually.
No one saw it.
I got a black card.
So the game was called off at half time because of the fog. Like,
no way. Wow.
So and like you were beating us well, and then it was rescheduled for maybe 4 or 5 weeks later, and we really targeted that game. Like we targeted Cluxton in goal, going after the kickouts, because we thought chances are we could meet Dublin again later in the summer. So if we can get one over them, then we know in our own minds that we're good enough to beat them.
Yeah, okay.
And it turned out that year we did, but unfortunately we just didn't do enough then after that. Like, but yeah, it's.
But no, there's a reference point in that though, isn't it? Like if you do get that scalp, that it can lift.
Yeah, and I think like bet Dublin 12 in the semi-final and the 13th final, obviously you won by a point. Like, it only gave the team played great that day. But probably could have gone either way. You know, if you beat them that day, maybe you do have the upper hand on them then for a couple of years. But obviously it went the other way, and that's how things
Do you know what I was always interested in from a Mayo perspective? Like, so let's say what you just, you know, that kind of season you went through there, which was 2012. 2021 then had a similar kind of journey, did it? Like, as in you bet us in the semi-final in 2012, you bet us in the semi-final in 2021.
Yeah.
But never went up. Both years you didn't go on to win the All-Ireland.
Yeah.
Was there any crossover there?
No, I think 12 was different in that Donegal were actually nearly on the same timeline or trajectory as us at the time. So they'd obviously I got beaten in the semi-final 11. We were beaten semi-finals in 11. We were both kind of on the same path. They were probably just that bit tactically smarter than us in the final. In 12, obviously, the 2 goals at the start didn't help. But I think 21 was probably one that was definitely, there's big regrets over that one. You know, I think.
Is there that thing of you've beaten Dublin maybe?
Yeah, I think probably bet Dublin probably just. Again, I wasn't there in 21, so I don't know what the tactics were at the time, but I think it was kind of a case that when we bet Dublin, it's like, right, this is how we're playing, this will work against Tyrone as well. I think Tyrone kind of exposed that a bit in the final. So that was probably that bit to it, you know. But, you know, like how often do you see where a team wins a big semi-final and they just kind of fall flat the next time just because of the hype over it. Like, and then you kind of you buy into all the talk that's out there then as well, and that 100%. Fear kind of gets inside you, and next thing you kind of,
Was that a big thing for Mayo, that the noise outside of having to win because the fans were so obsessive about winning?
It's easy to say it wasn't, because I suppose we were always telling ourselves we were not listening to it. Like, you know, you had to reference it inside in the group in terms of, you know, it's been so long and this is all out there. But we were, I suppose we'd ourselves convinced it's not getting into our group. I still do think, you know, I talk about the fear of losing. I still think there was nearly that fear of winning as well a small bit, nearly that fear of kicking on or trying to kick on and maybe making a mistake that might cost the victory. So I think at times there was a bit of that in it. But as much as you try and tell yourself it's not there.
Yeah. I remember, was it 2016 we went to a replay?
Yeah.
I remember 2016, and I don't think there might be anything in this, but I remember you were staying in a hotel somewhere and we drew, and the Dublin lads, we were all pissed off.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mayo lads were pissed off. I don't know. I can't comment on that, but we went into the change room, and I remember walking into the change room and seeing some of the Mayo players, one doing an interview, one was kind of over the other side, probably down towards the canal end, maybe just going to his family. That was all it was, maybe. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm already thinking now of preparing for the game.
Yeah.
There probably was nothing in it. There was videos going around of you having a banquet that night, because the banquet was there. It was,
of course.
You know, they were staying up in the banquet.
You booked the hall, you might as well have it.
The hotel, all the families were in, we had the banquet set out, and the lads had a different meal set up in the room. All the families and all the county board, they had to put something on because everybody was there. But literally could have spent about 10 minutes after the dinner, and everybody walked straight through the bank with their bags.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the videos
of
lads, but it was just energy.
Yeah.
It could be absolutely bullshit.
100%, but
it was just energy.
The key point is, man, that you made it a narrative in your head. You often do that in a rivalry, don't you? You find something. You
find anything, you use anything.
Use anything.
Yeah. Big time. Yeah. And like for me, I was always a bit of a weirdo in regards to, like, you know, there's times where I don't drink alcohol. And even the lads I was playing with, I'm going, right, I have you. I know I'm going to get you. You're gargled this week. I can see you when you... And I would be thinking to myself, but then there was times where I'd be doing a fitness test and I'm going,
how am I losing
full of bullshit, Philly. He drinks and he's battered in this room and you're full of shit. But again, there could be absolutely nothing in that, but I was always, and I don't know if the rest of the Dublin lads are like this, but I always felt that I could switch my mind into an optimistic kind of view and go, right, I have that.
But Philly, in that moment, you made it personal. You found, you know what I mean? You set a narrative, even for yourself. You found a reason to get a personal drive in it. Keith, had you ones like that with the Dubs? Did you, because of course, things go on in the pitch and stuff like, and some of it, it's right to stay there, but the drivers.
You'd always have something that you're trying to use, whether, like I said, whether there's actually something in it or not.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can really make it personal, because I don't think I ever met any boys outside of the football field for them years we were playing. So you just make it personal that it's right, American Dean Rock or American whoever it is on the pitch. It's just I don't like him. He's a bollocks. But he could be the nicest guy ever. But it's just he's after the same thing you're after. So you have to find something. Have to find some way of getting that. And probably hatred's not the right word for it, but just have to find some way of just trying to get something that you have to. Help yourself get one over on him, So it's hard to kind of put a word on it, but you always try and find some way of giving yourself that little bit extra bit of motivation.
Yeah.
I think particularly when it comes to rivalries, it's just the fact that you've played so often, you know who you're going to mark and you know what they do. It's not like they're going to do anything out of the blue that's going to really get one over on you, but it's just that kind of trying to find that mental part of it as well.
Yeah.
And particularly if you're we played in big games, we're playing in front of 82,000 people, you don't want, regardless of obviously your job for the team, you don't want to be seen as someone getting taken off after half time or whatever. You don't want to.
Yeah.
But I'd always find that regardless of who you were playing, is that embarrassment of getting shown up.
Of course. Yeah. Is there someone that stands out for you on the pitch that we might do two of them, but you played against, a rival that you played against that you thought, geez, I'd love him to be in my dressing room. You know what I mean? That there was nearly that mutual respect of they're hardy, you know what I mean? They bring everything you want. They're a competitor. You hated playing against them, or they made it difficult for you.
And they have to be outside of your county, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, well, sorry, they could have been in kind of club sense. I'll give an example for us. It was Simon Easterby. He was number 6 with Clonettley. We were lucky to get to play with him for Ireland. But I promise you could not give the man enough punishment. And he never relented. Yeah, and he never stopped to the work,
Yeah, I always kind of just picture Michael Murphy in that, he's such a good footballer, but there's a side to him as well, where he'll do whatever it takes to win. He's not afraid to leave a bit on you when he needed to.
Yeah.
Tough guy, he could play anywhere on the football field, but again, he just seems to have that drive where he'd do anything to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a hard question. Even the bias we both would have here, it's there. Can't say anybody from Mayo, can't say anybody from Kerry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's so there, it's just built into your program.
Yeah. Seriously, but no, it probably crazy. Is. Yeah.
But the Dubs, I was very lucky, and again, comes across cliche and politically and all that shit.
Yeah.
But basically, I was very lucky to have the Cluxton, Flynn, McCarthy, all these lads that you'd look around the change room and you go, I'm going to war with these boys. But there is a stage where you'd kind of go, when some of them, let's say, have moved on, who's stepping up now?
Yeah.
But Murphy's a great shout, by the way. I agree with you on Murphy, because he's not a Kerry or a Mayo player. But also he's a leader.
Yeah.
He's a great bloke off the field.
You just look at the all around him. He was made captain, 22 years of age?
Yeah.
Do you know, you don't want to get captain at 22 years of age just because you're a good footballer.
No,
so even from that earlier age, you would see that there was something to it, I think.
Yeah. He's just leadership built in. I would have likened I'd say McGeaney would have been a good player to have on your squad. Driving standards, and there's other lads that are very similar to him. Chrissy McCaig up the north, up Derry, he's similar kind of that. They're the things I like in a person. Do you know what I mean?
There's that bit of a streak in them as well, where they'd be sneaky, or they'd be, wouldn't say dirty, but they'd have
the dark arts a little bit, But I remember Dublin fans coming up to me about Lee Keegan showing the GPS, and I was like, yeah, too right.
Yeah.
I would have thrown my vest at him. Do you know? I would have took the GPS, I would have took my whole vest off and threw it at him. And again, as you mentioned, fans would kind of go, oh, if it's not one of our own, then we're against it.
That was one of the most popular questions, that he must be an awful this or that. And you're just well, I've never met the guy off the field. He could be a lovely fella.
Yeah.
But on the field, he just has to do to win.
Supporters and people outside the bubble don't know the healthy respect that actually goes on for those type of characters, or those moments like you mentioned.
Well, I prefer that than a player diving or a player coming in. Yeah. I'll give you a good one about Mayo, by the way, that I have to get out my chest, right?
Go on, get it all out.
We're
now in the confession box.
and in fairness to the guy, you probably know what I'm talking about.
I love 8 All-Irelands and still bitter out. Let it go, Billy, man.
I know. He's not here, so, but if you have a chat with him, you can...
Fair idea where it's going.
Yeah. We played, I can't remember the year, myself and Aidan O'Shea were marking each other. And we had good battles, right? And we grabbed each other, and a video went out after the game that I loved him, right? And I was convinced I did it. I was actually convinced I did it. I seen the video and I said, Jesus Christ, what did I do there? Like, you know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get done for this, like. And probably a lot of people were convinced I did it. And anyway, a video came. The video was from the Hogan stand, and another video came out from the Cusick stand. But before that, actually, he had come out in the media and said, "I done it." He said, he come out. He said, "Yeah, he hit me with his head." And this was going into a replay. Was it 2016?
2016, it says, or 15, 17.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so he'd come out in the media and said, "I done it." Then a video came out from the Cusick side, and you can see he pulls me. And I got away, like, not that I got away because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
He pulled me towards it and my head went like that, right? And that pissed me off. And if Aidan O'Shea was sitting there, I had no problem saying that. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's the respect thing we're saying.
I'd prefer the two of us go at it. And if he, like, I think I would have done things to him. I think he nearly broke my finger one game, bent and pulled it back as the ball was coming in over. I have no problem with that. And I never came out after it and go, "Oh, you tried to do it." But I was pissed off that he'd done that. I thought that was, and again, that was energy from me. I thought that was weak.
Yeah. But there was, again, at that time, there was a lot of stuff even coming out in the media from those players or ex-players nearly trying to create a narrative around some of them games, like trying to put pressure on referees and everything. Like, so there was a lot, even in 15, the whole Lee and Jeremy thing, like there was a lot of stuff going on at the time, trying to get one up, trying to put pressure on referees.
Okay.
But I didn't see any active current players doing that.
Yeah.
Do you know, I didn't see, that was for me, that was worse than you giving me a boot up the arse or a kick in the head.
But Philly, when you come to that point where it's win at all costs, we mentioned the kind of nil back moment, like he gets you done there and sent off, but he puts a medal in his teammate's back pocket. I'm just saying the scenario, like you have to kind of respect that there comes a point where fellas will do whatever it takes in a rivalry.
I get that and I respect that side of things, but I do think there's things that can be very cowardice.
Yeah.
Like, for example, did you ever come across a forward that would grab you and try dive to get you 2 yellow cards? I think that's a weakness in a forward doing that.
Okay.
Because I think you go to your man and you say, right, if you do your best today and I do my best today, we're going to have a good battle here. And when we look back in years to come, we'll talk about that. If you get me sent off by cheating, we're not going to get the best out of each other here today.
Yeah, agreed. But that's noble of you. And you know what I mean? And I love it, man. But I just look at my sport in terms of, and it's professional. So it's like win at all costs and there's livelihoods at stake. But I've an example in Worcester. One of our brilliant wingers, Bryce Heem, a New Zealander, played with the Chiefs, went up for a ball against Leicester. And while he's in the air, he gets taken out, so falls on, but he lands on his shoulder, a bit of his head. But straight away, Bryce, being a beauty, jumps straight off the ground, high-fived your man, I'm okay, you know what I mean? Play on, ref, penalty, we kick to the corner. But we were in a review on the Monday, and we're in a relegation battle, and they were saying to us, Bryce, if you go down there, and you just stay on the ground, the ref looks at the protocol, it meets everything for a yellow card. So he goes off, and the sway on that point on the yellow card was 6 points, and we lost by 4.
But the difference is, if it wasn't a foul and he dived,
you
would, as a group, would you be okay standing over with a player cheating from a cowardice action?
Yeah.
Now, again, throwing a GPS,
I understand that.
Whatever it is, there's not a rule book to say which is better and which is not. But what I'm saying is, if a player, there is a kind of unwritten kind of rules around, I would say, that if you dive or you call a player out after the game, I'm not sure that maybe it's a personal thing for me. I'm not sure that's what I would want one of my players to do.
Yeah.
If I seen one of my players, if we were known as a team of divers or a team that comes out and wants to get a fella sent off because they want to have a weaker team in the following game. I would find that as a weakness.
Yeah.
Would you call it out with them? Like,
would I call a fella out? I would 100%. If I felt,
even if you won,
if I seen the media, if I seen the story I've just said there, if I seen one of the players coming out and saying, Aidan O'Shea loafed me, and I think he should get sent off next game, in whatever word you want to, I would go to him and say, that's weak. You're showing a weakness there for us as a group. That's not what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's not our standards as a culture. We want the best Mayo team. We want to go out and compete against the best Mayo team possible. We don't want the weakest Mayo team.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to bring out the best in us.
Yeah. Again, that sounds like it all sounds very noble and all that, but again, like, I'd say that's probably you've probably been the minority of people that would actually do that. Like,
I think you're right, Keith.
I'd say there might be one in every 10 teams, one person every 10 teams who might do that.
I'd say that Leicester Tigers team, every one of them looks at Neil Back and says, thanks. You know what I mean? It was cheating. It was, like you're saying, you know what I mean?
But none of you came out, did you, in the media after that, complaining about that?
No, a lot of supporters were disappointed and the media themselves ran with it, but none of us fueled it. In fact, we viewed it, like I was saying to you, the other way.
Yeah.
We viewed it, oh my God, he would do whatever it took, and we're just not at that point yet.
But that's what I'm saying. You had a player come out and then go, we're not happy with what happened there. We want something to take action. That's like you coming out after that incident and going, we're not happy, you know.
Yeah,
but I think should have changed that.
It's a small bit different in that it's not like it was played that game and we got bet and was coming out with sour grapes. I think it was played the game, was a draw, we're going into a replay. He's trying to create a narrative that, right, I need a bit more protection here.
Big time.
And if he gets 2 more frees off the referee because of that, then he's doing the right thing for the team.
Yeah, I agree. That's the only reason he was doing it.
100%.
But again, it just depends on what your viewpoint is. Like, you're looking at it from the point of view of, you see it in a weakness in the opposition. He's looking from the point of view of, if I get an extra free off the referee, it's an extra point for us. Mike has a better chance of winning.
But then you look at how professional, like I'm chatting from a professional side of it, but there is big moments. That's where moments like that, like go back to the Bryce Heem one for us there, him being hit in the air. But if we get relegated in professional sport, people lose their jobs. So all of a sudden,
it's very different. Yeah.
But there's also, do you feel, especially with football, it's going that way a little bit? Like
in GAA?
Yeah.
I think we're very lucky that it has, I think rugby as well, probably to an extent, the fan bases have not got to the level of where soccer's gone.
Okay.
Where you can't even sit in the same stand.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a Leinster-Munster game or a Dublin-Mayo game, you can sit in the same stands. You can walk down the street after the game.
Yeah, you're the exact same,
But there is a lot more online abuse. There's a lot more pressure on managers, you know, and I think some fans take it to the extent where they don't realise, hold on a second, most of these are doing this from a voluntary point of view, you know, and the management teams behind them are doing it from a voluntary aspect. It could, 10, 20 years' time, become very, very aggressive.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful
that's really like a societal thing more than anything. Like, online is just, you get criticised for anything now. Like, anyone with any bit of a public profile, then there's so much abuse out there. Like, I think it's just crazy. Like.
Had you players looking at different forums or social media outlets to kind of see?
No, we would have had kind of made a conscious thing that we wouldn't look at it coming up to big games or after big games, but like certain players like Aidan and Robbie would have gotten a lot of unnecessary online stuff, abuse, whatever. Like, but again, kind of bigger personalities probably, and maybe made mistakes here and there, but like. And like they say, it doesn't affect you, it has to affect you.
Of course. What I always found, it never really affected me, but it would upset my family.
Yeah.
And then that, as a byproduct, upsets you that you're there like, why?
Oh, yeah.
And that can be tough.
That is the toughest thing. Like my last year, were you there in 2021?
No.
Where are you gone?
I was gone, yeah. Finished up after 2020,
yeah. 2021, we played Mayo in the All-Ireland semi-final, and I came on in extra time. It was my last season, and I came on in extra time, and Rob Henley was kicking a 45 to make it a draw to go into extra time, and I came on and I ran past Rob into the referee, gave him ran by him, didn't have to give him a slip or anything like that, and I was in top of the 21 or something like that. I was way away from the 45. Kicked it, he missed it. John McQuillan blew it and said retake, and we were all like, "What's this retake for? Like, what's going on, Joe?" We thought it was for someone moving while Rob was kicking the 45 in front of him. It was a Mayo player getting taken off behind Rob, like it was the air 45 metre line, had no impact in the game. It was the rule, right? It was the rule that the player going off has to be off before the play restarts. But he'd no, I'd say most referees, again, biased Dublin hat on, most referees.
I love how bitter you are, Philly, man. It is
have blown it. They wouldn't have blown it. They wouldn't have retaken it, right? The reason I'm telling you the story is McStay, who's the current Mayo manager, had said, I heard this after from my mum, had said, Philly McMahon walked across the 45, right? So obviously I got blamed on it.
Yeah, okay.
And the abuse from everywhere came. Yeah. And I was all right with that. I didn't give a shit. Like, honestly, didn't bother me. It wasn't really, when you lose a game, you probably, your ego, you go on it on social media when you win a game, but when you lose it, you don't want to go near it. And I was okay with social media through my career. I accepted that if I was going to be on it, I have to be able to deal with it. Yeah, I was grand with it. But the worst part was my mum. Yeah, she was like, "Why did you do that? Everybody's abusing it." I said, "Do what?" Yeah, she said, "The commentator said you walked across the ball," and she was devastated because she knew it was my last year. Yeah, she thought in my last season that was my last action. Yeah, because McStay was lazy and didn't really hold his tongue a little bit to wait to see what was the reason why it was the retake. But that's the impact it can have. Of course, and a family. Actually,
just speaking about that, like you look back at the hurling, Darragh McCarthy, the Tipperary player, like there's an onus now even before the match to kind of keep rivalries on edge. So we're going back to the Cork Tip game and him getting sent off before the ball's even thrown in.
And again, when we're not privy to what goes on inside of it, but it looked like it was nearly a premeditated thing that the tip forward just kind of went for the Cork backs. I'm not sure if the same thing happened the week before when they played Limerick or not. But again, that just shows, when a young lad like that, he goes in, 42,000 below in Cork, like the atmosphere probably rocking, emotions can really kind of get the better of you. Like, just something small bit rash, and next thing the game is gone.
How important is that on senior players to just see a young fella there and just, because we've all been there when you're, you know what I mean? You can't control that when you're that young. You have to learn. You learn in those moments, but just having someone around you that can.
Yeah, I think if that was going to be a thing that they were going to do and that we were going out here and set our stall out early, you leave it to one or two of the older players who might do it a bit more. Yeah. Discreetly or whatever. You don't put it on shoulder of a 21-year-old lad to go out and kind of do that. Like, I remember we played Galway. I can't remember what year it was now. We're playing them up in Salt Hill, and again, you talk about rivalries, like that's a big one for us against Galway. But I remember Alan Dillon went out and went to shake a guy. I'm not sure who he is, American, a young buff from Galway, and just shook his hand, gave him a shoulder, put him on the ground, like. Yeah. And that was just him kind of laying down his marker for the day. Like, this young buck going to mark him. He's like, no, not today. Yeah. Sometimes you can have that big psychological advantage, but I don't think you want your 21-year-old lads going out doing it.
You go back to the kind of leadership side of it, and you're right. Like, I go back to a personal game of mine, played up in Ravenhill quite young, got my first run, but like Mick Galway and Peter Clossy were playing, and the way they would have done things was different. But I remember I fell in thinking that I could be at that level. And I remember Declan Kidney taking me off, and he was there, you haven't earned that right. You know what I mean? You've no credit to act like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know in GAA, is it a thing where teams would say, listen, if you're under 21, don't get involved. I don't know, it's a subconscious thing maybe. Yeah. It's just like, but I think your preparation up into that game is an impact on the actions that you have in that game. Yeah. Okay. So if you're a young lad and you haven't been prepped right emotionally, or your energy hasn't been controlled of the week of the game, well then that's what will expose itself with. Yeah. But I've again, it might be different changing rooms, but I've never been in the changing room where someone has stood up and said, like, if you're a young lad, don't get stuck in. Yeah. Because it would be more so a thing where you'd see someone that's getting targeted, right? So let's say if you were targeting Dermot, that we'd step in and know that. Or
I'm not saying it's
if I target someone from
tell the young lad not to, but it's a case of you're not telling them to go out and do it.
Exactly.
No.
Whereas
But
it looked like from that game is
Yeah.
that all the
Yeah.
tip forwards went at it. But I'm saying you don't tell the 21-year-old
Yeah.
to do it. You don't tell him not to, but you don't specifically give him the instruction to do it.
I'd be more worried that the fella, if a tip team went out and just were calm. In hurling, it's mad. Like, they're different level in terms of energy. Like,
have you noticed a difference in hurling and football? The kind of rivalries within it, that energy that Philly's chatting about.
It's very much similar. I think it's like when you talk about rivalries, I think they're all the same, regardless whether it's rugby, soccer, hurling. It is that kind of tribal. It's that parish. It's that neighbours, that team that's coming after you. So I think regardless of the sport, it's nearly all the same. Like, I mean, you look at the Munster Hurling Championship, like, I mean, you have probably 5 of the best 6-7 teams in the hurling championship playing each other week in, week out. They know each other so well. It's just creating that rivalry, it's creating that atmosphere around getting 40,000 in for a round robin game. Like, you know, so I don't think rivalries kind of change really. I think it's just regards to the sport, they're all
just they've got hurls.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing with hurling recently is there's probably a bit of a, particularly when you look at Limerick's dominance, that you were kind of at a stage where there was only a smaller amount of teams that could win in All-Ireland compared to football.
Okay.
You know, and you can go, well, the same thing happened with Dublin.
Yeah, I was about to say it.
You know, but the more teams that can possibly win in All-Ireland in those codes creates more rivalry. You know that way? It creates more. So hurling, who would you say in hurling now compared to maybe last year, the year before, could win in All-Ireland now? I think there's a few more teams. Like.
Yeah. But again, I think that's the whole beauty of the Munster Championship, is that, like I said, if you have 5 top teams, only 3 can come out. I mean, we talked about the round robin in football, where's that lack of jeopardy? Like, there's serious jeopardy in the Munster Hurling Championship. Like even when Limerick were at their pomp, they still weren't guaranteed really to win all their games in Munster. Do you know? And that's just, now that probably speaks to the strength of the teams there as well, but it's just because them rivalries are so big, it creates them atmospheres, them games, and it's just, it changes the narrative around them.
Looking at the athletes now, lads, and you did it yourself, but you must have noticed a massive transition from where you started to where you finished it, but also now where it's at the moment in terms of it is some, I feel bad saying it's almost professional in the mindset in the players and what they give it. Did you notice that as you were in it? It was all consuming. It was nearly taking over your lives.
Yeah, definitely obsessive, I'd say. You know, it's only till COVID happened that you realised, wow, there's something more to life. Like, you know, there was lads actually going, all right, there's something else out here in football, like, you know. But yeah, you had to be obsessive. You had to be. You were constantly thinking of, you know, just people getting the edge of me, my own teammates. Like, what am I doing that you'd wake up in the morning, I would look at my hydration, my movement, how much light I'm getting in, all these weird things. Like, was it to that level of professionalism that you? Well, it was for me. I was always looking for how I could get to the higher level. Like, I was always excited about the unknown in my career. Like, you know, what else could I do? Like two of us were very aggressive, attacking full backs, which probably before us, Mark O'Shea, probably very few you would say there was before us that done that. Like, but I was always excited about the unknown. How better could I get? And that created obsession. Like, can I ask, did you feel you were adding, you know, the way the cycling team, was it marginal gains, or were you convinced in your head that it was actually massive leaps you could make? Or, like, did you back yourself that I'm on it? Yeah. Oh, there's things you done and you just didn't see the benefit of it, and you just done it. Like, you know, like. My daily routine would have been, as I said, a pint of water, apple cider vinegar, sea salt, and I didn't know if that benefited me. I just thought I did, and I'd get out then and run around with my dogs to create movement in my body. Had my gear with me so that I knew that if I finished work, I didn't have to go home. I could go straight to training, and I'd be there at 5 o'clock. Training's at 7:30. I'd sit in the car for 10 minutes to compartmentalise what happened that day. I just switch off. I do a bit of meditation just to work on decision making. Yeah. Go in and do my analysis on these lads, if I was playing them or whoever I was playing, and look at habitually what players were doing. And then I'd be again paranoid, looking around the change room. What's he doing? Oh. Take a bit of that. That's not going to benefit me. Won't do that. Go out, do your sparring. That's what I would call it. So if I was marking an Aidan O'Shea, I'd be like, right, okay, who can I get that's that same build? Can I get a lefty because he's a left footer? Can I get a big lad? Can I get a midfielder because he roams out around the midfield? So all of these things, back then you were like, these are the norms to an extent.
Yeah.
But when you look back, you just go, geez, that was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Were you a bit like that, Keith?
No, I was probably the complete opposite.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just shows how a dressing room is so different.
But we would have had lads who would have been very, very similar to that. Like, and that's the thing, you deal with the dressing room where you have 32, 33 players, 33 different individuals. Everyone's going to be different. Like, but I would have been, like, even the thing there, it's like we'd have been similar. Training was at 7:30, you're near there at 6 o'clock. Like, so you're doing your stretch and you're doing your foam roll and you're doing whatever you're doing. It got to the stage where I was just like, I'm seeing no benefit in this. Like, so I was getting to train until 6:30. So then by the time I get togged out and stretched, it's nearly 7 o'clock. It's nearly time to go out onto the field. Yeah. So I just had to get rid of all the other clutter and just strip it back to the basics. Yeah. And then I found that worked for me, particularly kind of around 2016, 17. Yeah. Whereas after that, you're trying all these different things, but I just like that. Are they having any benefit for me? So I just had to strip back and try and enjoy it a bit more. Yeah. But I suppose to go back to your original point, like when I started off in 05, like it's an awful long time ago now. Like it was train Tuesday, train Thursday, play a league game Sunday. There was very little gym work, analysis, S&C, recovery. You're probably going on the beer after every league game. Like, it was a completely different time. Now you probably had a few players who were ahead of the curve and things like probably McGeaney and these lads, but like it didn't. You're probably looking at 9, 10, 11 before it really started getting to that stage where S&C was a massive thing and the game evolved so much. Like,
and it really has now. Do you think we're looking down the barrel of professionalism for the sacrifices that go into it? Of course, everyone wants to represent and show where they're from, and of course that. But just for the sacrifices that go into it, all the extras, the fact that the players should be compensated for what's going to come with their bodies. Like, thankfully, both of you walk away from it unscathed. But
yeah, it probably is. But like, I think people say it's the demands that have been put on players, and that, like, I think the GAA and the GP are nearly pushing it as much as they're saying, "Oh, we're completely voluntary." Like, I mean, they're pushing more games, they're pushing tighter schedules, like they're pushing all this stuff, and the players have to react by getting their standards higher. Like, where the reality of it is, like, 99% of the GAA players in the country are club players. But all they were doing is focus on the inter-county game because that's generating the money, that's generating what's paying for the whole circle to go around. So, like, I think there's a bit to be answered for and even from the hierarchy on it, like, because they're just pushing the demands on the players. So, I don't know what the perfect formula is, but I'd have an issue with it. Like,
but I think the biggest problem is that historically we have this narrative that, we can't go near professionalism. But when we are, like, we were professional. Like, we were training 40, 50 hours a week. Yeah, we were professional. And soccer teams, I know from working in this country, don't train as much as the county lads did, right? Some of them might, but so we're at the level of professionalism. But yeah, it's if you could use a different word. Yes, that professionalism doesn't bring money to the players. But the difficulty is we have a brilliant organisation, one of the best in the world, and it spreads its money down through the roots, which is incredible, and we must protect that at all costs. But if we could do that and we could compensate the players better, I think that's the happy medium, because at the end of the day people will go, well, you have to have players transferring and they can go to different counties, and no, you pay everybody the same. You pay the 6 concerts or 7 concerts a year goes towards paying the players. You get if a team gets to a knockout stage, let's say they come out of their group stages, they get paid for their group stage games. So it's 6 games to get paid for, and it's really a subsidy, I would say, regarding your employer gets a tax rebate from it, and you're basically going in 2 months of the year or 3 months of the year, whatever it is time frame, that you can go and give 100% to your football team and your county, so that everybody watching can see this brilliant sport. You're going to give 100% without worrying about work for those months. Yeah, and everybody gets paid the same. What would be the problem with that?
Do you think that's achievable? Do you think that's...
I think the narrative, the historical narrative of paying players will always... oversee that thought.
I see that side of it, and you're right. It's nearly the wording of professionalism seems so dirty around it, but it would it be right to call it compensation nearly? You know,
Yeah, definitely. And again, this is coming from someone who's a dub.
Yeah.
Right. We wouldn't need it as much because we're in a city.
Yeah.
We don't need to emigrate. We don't need to travel down to university from Donegal. I remember Carl Lacey travelling from Donegal down to Limerick to study. You know, if there's lads that have to travel big distances, particularly country lads, that's what will help. It's basically in those 2 months that your employer is rewarded, and that money then is given to you as your wage, you know, per week. Now you might have to take a cut because you're on a big wage, possibly. But would you do that to play? Give your sport 100% in those 2 months? I probably would.
It's funny. I used to have a teammate that would chat about salaries, and he was there. It's not really a salary; it's compensation for what you're putting your body through. Because the way the physicality had gone in rugby, you knew that lads were coming away crocked. You know what I mean? So it's like this is actually going to, you know, reward you for what you've done.
I can tell you, and you won't like this, by the way, every All-Ireland final that I played in, particularly after the second one, it cost me money to be an All-Ireland final.
Wow.
Right? Because we had to, I don't know about you, you got your free tickets and you pay for your other tickets.
Yeah.
Sure, there's family members in them that I wouldn't charge. I wouldn't go here. Give us a few bob for that ticket, will you?
A dodgy uncle, surely, Philly.
Yeah, give me a few bob for that. Don't like you.
It was a miserly communion card back in the day.
It cost you money, like.
Yeah.
You know, think about that, like. Isn't that, in this day and age, isn't that crazy where you had to pay for one of your family members? Because I, like even the games, you get 4 free tickets. I don't know what you would have got.
6, I think. Yeah.
6 was it? But we would have got 4 to 6. I don't know what it was. But like your family is going to be definitely bigger than 4 to 6.
Yeah. You got the option then to buy another 12 or something.
Yeah. Lads, thanks so much. Really enjoyed the conversation. Really thankful for the grip strength. We're going to give another go. We'll stay here till next week with the 2E on that.
I'm not happy John O'Sullivan's at the beat me. That's the problem.
You'll be here for a few hours.
There you go. But no, honestly, love the chats. I know you went at it for years, but it's brilliant that you can meet in this spot, and it's just all respect and, you know, the things that would have gone on before.
We're going to have a scrap outside.
Yeah, exactly. You can use that to fob each other.
Totally Croke Park, you know.
But Keith, Philly, thanks so much, lads. Honestly, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be here.
That's it for this episode of Under Construction with thanks to Chadwicks. A massive thank you to you for listening. Also to our fantastic guests. If you'd like to subscribe or follow, we'd really appreciate it. Or you can hit the like button. See you next time.